Transmission begins.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This is the Josh Tolley Show on the GCN Radio Network.
And this is just a quick bio for him. An average boy in average American neighborhood, Zachary grew up in a Baptist home. He began practicing magic at 10 years old, joined the Satanic Coven at 13, and had broken all 10 commandments by 15 years old. And that's just the beginning. Zach, welcome to the show. How you doing, sir?
Great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. So let's just kind of start with the beginning of your story before we get to where the story led. All 10 commandments by the time you were 15 years old, huh?
Yeah, I was a bit of a bad boy.
Now, some people at home are doing an inventory of these 10 commandments. We got some pretty grievous offenses in there, like murder. Did you kill somebody?
Yeah, through an abortion.
Gotcha.
I did an assisted abortion when I was just before turning 15.
Wow. So kind of walk us through this process. I mean, you grew up in a Baptist home. What happened?
Well, at 10 years old, I had watched like every single fantasy and, science fiction movie that existed in the 70s and the 60s. And I was 10 years old in 1976. And, I was a big fan of Star Wars and Star Trek and all that kind of stuff. And in a lot of the other fantasy movies, they had magic. Well, I was just fascinated by magic. I thought, oh, that's so cool. I wish you could do that in real life. And I would try, I would, ask my parents and ask adults and whatever, can you really do that? And they all said no, that magic was fake. Now, the funny thing about that is that there's like 8 places in the Bible that warn you not to do magic.
Right.
Now, why would they warn you against something that's not real? Obviously, it must have been real at some point because the Bible has it,
Yeah.
But all the parents and everything are saying no. So there's a game going through the school called Bloody Mary, or I Hate You, Bloody Mary. And it's a bunch of kids go in the bathroom, turn out the lights, and chant this phrase into a mirror. They tell you it's a game, it's really a spell, and you're trying to create a demonic face. You want a demonic face to show up in the mirror. We're just told it's a spirit of somebody that died, and if you say the chant, that they might come and show up in the mirror. When that happens, and this is 1976, so there's no holographic flashlights or anything you're going to shine into the mirror to get this result. Kids, being 10 years old, will flee the bathroom. I mean, they're like running out, like you would not believe, screaming as they go. I was fascinated by it. I'd see this face and be like, whoa, we just did this. How did we conjure something like this?
Okay, hold on. Hold on.
Fascinated by it.
Hold on 1 second, because this is outside my typical wheelhouse here. So you're saying that it actually worked? Like this wasn't just some sort of, go in there and the kids just get scared with their own imagination. You actually saw something in the mirror?
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay, keep going.
All right. Well, I mean, the same thing. There's, I think, Paranormal 3, the movie.
Sure.
They feature this. It's in cartoons and other movies, and if you Google search it or YouTube search it, there's tons of videos about, people that are trying it.
Wow.
So, we actually at that point, we had the Charlie Challenge. It wasn't called that. It had a different name. And there was a girl there that brought it to the school that she could get that top pencil to spin like a propeller, but nobody else could get that game to work. So it didn't go anywhere at our school. It didn't burn across the nation like it does now. And then while that is also going on, I play campaigns of Dungeons and Dragons every weekend.
Okay,
And
Zachary, hold on 1 second, my friend. We're up against a break because we kind of came into this a little bit late. But stay where you're at because there's so many things that I want to cover. Folks, we'll be back right after this. All right, we're talking to Zachary King. Again, his website, allsaintsministry.org. You might be thinking, well, wait a second. If he was just talking about some weird spiritual stuff in a bathroom and his website's allsaintministry.org, well, guess what? There's a change in course coming. But first, we have to get to the crux of the situation. So, Zachary, pick up where you left off, if you could, please, sir. You're a young guy. You engage in these activities. That's a leap, though, between seeing something and experiencing something and deciding to put your life in that vein, isn't it, to pursue those things?
There's a quote from Father Gabriel Amorth. He was the lead exorcist in Rome. Right? He's done like over 80,000 exorcisms. And he talks about, it's a book about an interview he gave on Harry Potter. So this would have been like 15 years ago.
Okay.
But he says you start with an innocent young boy, Harry, who starts practicing magic, and all magic leads to the devil. So I was the innocent young boy, and I was doing some innocent magic, and all magic leads to the devil. So I'm doing this magic spell. I'm playing D&D every weekend, which when I played it, the books had real magic spells. Now they don't, and now they don't include that kind of stuff anymore. But back then, I guess they were trying to be more authentic. And eventually, I just kind of got the idea, okay, I'm playing magic in the game every weekend, and I'm doing this thing in the mirror that no one seems to be able to explain. I mean, people tell you not to do it, but why? It's
Right.
like, well, just don't do it. Well, just don't do it doesn't cut it with me. You've got to give me a reason. And since they couldn't give me a reason, I just kept doing it. So I'm making this thing, this face is appearing. I'm playing this game every weekend, and it finally just occurred to me, hey, I wonder if I could do a magic spell in real life. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do magic in real life, and if it doesn't work, then I'm just wasting my time playing these other little games. I'm not going to do this anymore. So I thought, what can I do a spell for that if it works, no one gets hurt? So I thought about a spell for money. So I did a spell for money, and the next day I found a can of tennis balls with a $5 bill in it. And I thought, all right, $5, that's not bad. Tennis, I don't play tennis, but, now I've got 3 balls to play with and a $5 bill. So good thing, but could have been a coincidence. So the next weekend I did the spell again. Walking down the street, found a $10 bill in the grass next to the road. Okay, $15, 8 days, I'm doing pretty good, but it still couldn't have been a coincidence. Now, on the other hand, I am thinking I'm doing pretty good here because 1976, penny candy cost a penny.
Right.
Candy bars are 20 cents. Comic books are 15 to 20 cents. And these are my 3 favorite things to buy. So, I'm thinking I can buy quite a bit with $15. But still could be a coincidence. So I got to try it one more time. So I did the spell again. I always do my spells are all at home in my bedroom. Well, I've got my own private bathroom in my bedroom. So I go in my bathroom and I do the magic spell, and then I combine it with the Bloody Mary game. And when the face appears, I make sure that it understands, or I try to convey that I'm doing a money spell. So I've combined the two. The next day I go out and play. I'm running through this big parking lot, and something catches my eye, so I run over to it, and it looks like Monopoly money wrapped up really tight in rubber bands. So I put that in my pocket, and I go about playing. Later that night, I'm at home, I'm under the sheets, flashlight in my mouth, unraveling what I got. I took all the rubber bands off, opened it up, had a $100 bill. When I unraveled them all, I had 10 $100 bills.
Whoa.
So I'm 10 years old, and I'm worth $1,000. And images start going through my head that if I keep doing this, I could have a Lamborghini by the time I was 15, and which never happened. But just knowing that absolutely magic was real, and that I could do this spell every day for the rest of my life. Had me hooked. I was set on this is what I was going to do the rest of my life.
So where did you? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask. So where did it turn from you practicing alone to finding an organized system? If this was me, I would have no idea where to look for other people who practice the same thing. And we're talking about the 70s, so there wasn't Google. You can't Google,
right.
Satanic cult or something. So how did you find other people of like mind?
Well, as you know, I kept saying that I played D&D campaigns every weekend. I had a set group of friends, a bunch of fellow nerds, and we'd all get together and play this game. Well, there was certain people that would come in and play sometimes, and they weren't always there. And one of these kids, when I was 12, came to me and said, "Hey, there's another group that I play with sometimes, and they play D&D every weekend, and they think magic is real. So they use real magic spells in their games, and they have a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun over there. So I was like, all right. So I checked them out, and it's this huge group of people. They meet up every weekend. They have barbecues at their house. They have an in-ground pool. They have like every fantasy and science fiction movie ever made. You know, they have, I love pinball machines and video games, and they had the actual machines there. They had like a real pinball machine, like what you know, find at like a youth center or a bar or something, you know, or, you know, real size video games. And I was just like, oh, that's so awesome. So, and there's a lot of kids, I mean, boys and girls that hang out at this place, and they're playing D&D every weekend, and it's just so much fun for me. I'm like, you know, sure, you know, I'll hang out with these guys. I started going over there for sleepovers, for parties, for, I mean, just hanging out. It was just so much fun. And Satanic Coven, recruiting kids, but it didn't seem nefarious in any way. You know, like my parents knew these people. They were fine with me hanging out there. And eventually, while I'm 12 years old, this kid tells me, hey, you know you're part of a Satanic Coven, right? I was thinking, there's no way. I've seen the movies from the 70s. They're all spooky and creepy, and people dressed in black clothes and chanting weird things and all this weird stuff, and these people don't do any of that. So I asked one of the adults, you know, and I was kind of like tongue-in-cheek, hey, this isn't really a Satanic Coven, is it? And the guy was like, actually, it is. You know, he's like, are you having fun here? I said, I'm having a great time here. He goes, well, you know, you're not a full member yet. If you'd like to be a full member, we can make you one. You know, I was like, well, what do I have to do? He goes, well, there's 13 steps, and you've done most of them. So there's just a few more things to go. So my final steps were I had to have my thumb cut and sign a document in blood. And the document said that the blood of Jesus washed away all sin, but not mine. Jesus died for everybody, but not me. And that I could never seek God's assistance or help in anything. Even if I wanted to, I didn't have that option. I was selling my soul. Now, I got to tell you that it's impossible to sell your soul. But at 12, 13 years old, you're not the brightest bulb. So I went ahead and bought into that, sold my soul. They baptize you in a vat. They fully submerge you in a vat of pig's blood, and human urine. At that point, you're in a white robe, signifies losing your innocence. You go into another room, take a shower. You come back, you're in a black robe. Sit in a chair. They pull the cowl up over your face. They read the document that you signed the night before. They show that you now have a bandaged thumb, so obviously you signed it in your own blood. They give you a wheel that has a crucifix in it. You spin the crucifix upside down, which is a symbol of human sacrifice, and you break the arms downward, which is signifies denouncing Christ. Mm-hmm. At this point, if you looked at this wheel, you'd be looking at it looks like a peace sign now. They take the document you signed and put it in with that, and they bind it all together. They claim that your soul is now attached to this, and they put it in the vault where you never see it again. And then there's a little party that happens afterwards, and you're officially a Satanist.
Wow. Okay, that's a good place to take another commercial break. Wrap your head around that, folks. And you thought getting into a Baptist church was hard. Stay where you're at. We'll be back right after this. All right, Zachary, you have everybody just captivated with this story, and I'm really loving that this is going to end on a great note, but it's a process to get to that point. So you're 12, 13 years old. You just got initiated into this thing. You took a bath in blood and urine, signed the document with your own blood. Where does this path then take you?
Well, they recognize that I love doing magic, so they have me, like, every person that practices magic has what's called a Book of Shadows, and it's like their favorite spells or spells that they do, but the way that they do it, the way they personalize it. So everybody's sharing their Book of Shadows with me. I'm going through and I'm doing as much magic as I can. And this is magic with ending in a K, not with a C. Magic with a C is like child's birthday party type magic. It's harmless. Yeah. You know, it's illusions or card tricks, sleight of hand, whatever. magic ending with a K is satanic magic. So it'd be like spells, hexes, when you think of voodoo or, Santeria, something like that. So I'm doing whatever I can, as much as I can. Even if I'm not practicing magic, I'm reading about it. I'm trying to learn as much as I can about it. Going back a little bit, when I was 11 years old, I was the victim of a sexual assault at school, at the hands of a female teacher. Back then, never heard about something like that. Nowadays, you hear about it like every day.
Yeah.
So it's like not even a big deal now. But back then, I didn't know that something like that was possible. We didn't have the internet back then. You couldn't look up porn just anywhere you wanted to. So I was like innocent at 11 years old. I had no idea what this woman was doing to me. I knew that on some level it felt good, but I also felt guilty. She's telling me that I wanted to do it. It was my fault. If I told, I would be the one that gets in trouble, and nothing would happen to her because she's the innocent person. She just happened to be there. And so since I couldn't tell anybody, I dove further into magic. When I was 12 years old, before I was officially a member of this coven, they explained to me, and these people totally embraced me and were okay with the sexual assault, like just gave me love and acceptance, and I could describe what happened, and they totally understood. Well, one of the reasons they totally understood is because the woman that assaulted me was in the coven. But they had explained to me that, this woman stole your innocence. She took from you what was precious, and she destroyed it. Now, if you want to, you have the option of gaining the power back, because now there's these other people that you can have sex with if you want to, and you can do whatever you want, and if you decide you don't want to do it, you can walk away, or if you decide you want to do it, you can keep going. It's up to you. So to me, being 12 years old, and again, like I said, not the smartest tech, I'm just not, not comprehending that they're still wanting to abuse me. I'm like, oh, sure, that'd be great. I can, yes, it did feel good on some level, and now I can take the power back, and I'll be in control of everything, and I won't feel like I'm this helpless victim. So I bought into what they said, and what they had was a kiddie porn ring, and I was in kiddie porn for like 4 or 5 years. And
Whoa.
I had sex with kids my own age and with adults. Didn't think anything wrong with it because I could walk away at any time. I'm not the victim. Where I was absolutely the victim every time in every situation. But
Wow.
Satan likes to twist things and make you seem like you're getting something when you're not.
Wow. Okay, so let me just kind of put some framework to this. The lady who assaulted you, the teacher, she was in this coven
Right.
as well. When did you find that out? I mean, after the assault, after the initiation, they introduced you to her? Like, how did they bring this up?
I probably didn't see her till I was 15 or 16 years old.
Okay. And
And by then, when I saw her, it was like, she looks familiar. She looked different. And she didn't look exactly the same as she did when, the assault happened. So I wasn't sure that it was her. And then, they confirmed that it was her. And I just kind of ignored her and tried to not have any contact with her. I just didn't like her, but,
sure.
I didn't know how to respond. I didn't know what I was supposed to do.
So this idea, well, not even an idea. I'm going to ask your personal opinion, and I understand that you can't make a for sure ruling on this, but we are seeing a lot of sexual abuse at the hands of teachers, to the tunes of millions of kids. It's way worse than the Catholic priest thing ever was. Slate magazine did a report about millions of kids that are currently in school are being abused by teachers. We also see a separation of teachers and any sort of faith, or at least as we can tell. Do you think, from your own personal experience and your own personal opinion, do you think there is a high prevalence of satanic activity in the lives of these teachers?
I think that any place where you have the chance to victimize somebody that can't complain, or that have a limited capacity in the power that they have, you attract a certain type of person. Like, if you know that kids, boys that are lacking their father would be a good target, then being a scoutmaster in that area would be ideal for a Satanist. As well as if you're looking to kill a bunch of innocent babies, then working in an abortion clinic would be perfect.
Wow.
So,
this is...
So yes, I think if Satanists are looking to abuse a bunch of children, then obviously working in a setting where there's a lot of children there is ideal.
Do you believe that a lot of these people are actually Satanists? They just haven't gone through the ritual? Because you're talking about, the few extra steps that you needed to take to become official. But do you think a lot of these people are engaging in, say, 9 out of the 13 steps, and they just don't even know that they're part of this satanic epidemic?
I think that a lot of people have the capacity to be full-on satanic, to be officially satanic, but yeah, they don't belong to an actual coven. Although, when you look at, like a lot of big cases that happen in like preschools or in, private homes where a bunch of kids are molested, a lot of times one of those people has a connection to a satanic cult or to a Wiccan cult, and you'll see one blurb about that in the newspaper, but they never go any further with it. They never investigate it. It's like, really, why is that?
Yeah.
You just heard that there might be something nefarious going on, but you're going to totally ignore that? It's like back in the 80s when they, quote, proved that SRA was false. That doesn't really happen. I work with counselors that can tell you that SRA is true, and they work with hundreds of people that are victims of satanic ritual abuse. So if it's not real and it doesn't exist, why do we have counselors that take care of them?
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so you're at this point where you're getting involved in child porn. You're growing up to adulthood. Is there any point at adulthood where you start to say to yourself, wait a second, this is 7 flavors of crazy, I need to make a change, or was it full steam ahead?
Well, I stopped in child porn. I was probably about 16 when I stopped, and I didn't necessarily stop because I wanted to. I stopped because I was starting to, even though I was young and geeky, I was starting to have a mustache, and I was looking a little older, so they decided that I looked too old to be in these movies anymore. And for the most part, when I was 16, I was having most of my sexes with adults, and now I'm starting to look like an adult, so, I'm no longer prime, meat for the victim, to be a victim anymore.
Sure.
So, but when I was 14, I just turned 14, and they said that we were going to have a sex orgy with all the males 12 to 15 years old and one female that was over 18. And the purpose was to get her pregnant, and then we would abort her baby in 8 or 9 months. And I said I thought that was cool, and but I went home because I was like, I didn't know what abortion was. I know my parents whispered the word abortion in front of me one time, so I thought it was a dirty word. And I went to the library. I looked it up in a dictionary first, and that didn't give me any clue.
Well, Zach, hold on 1 second, my friend. Hold on 1 second. I'm up against a break. Man, that just got weird. That got scary and sad all at the same time. We're going to continue down this road right after this break, folks. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the show, folks. Second hour, Josh Tully Show, GCN Radio Network. If you want to be part of it, 1-800-259-5791, 1-800-259-5791. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and, of course, YouTube, where you can now watch us do the show live Monday through Friday. Just go to YouTube, type in Josh Tully or Josh Tully Show or the Josh Tully Channel. All 3 of those will get you to where you need to go, and you can watch. All right, we have a very interesting show today, very interesting guest. His name is Zachary King. And if you missed the first hour, you're definitely going to want to go back into the archives and grab it. He is a former Satanist, not just a Satanist, but a upper echelon Satanist. And we're getting to the point where we're entering adulthood in his timeline story, and that's where it gets a little interesting for the rest of us. And Zach, I just kind of want to set this up because a lot of people are wondering about this. The reason why this is important, folks, the reason why, you know, some of you have written in and said, oh, Josh, I don't believe it, or whatever, it's kind of irrelevant, to be honest, because when we talk about Satanist, satanic influences, even if you don't believe it, one, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Two, really important people around the world do, and they're the people who are making the decisions that affect you. So this is why topics like this are so vital. All right, Zachary, so take us to, you're now an adult, how do we get to Bohemian Grove, and kind of explain for those who don't know what that is and why it's important.
All right. Well, when I left, I grew up in a small town, and which could be anywhere in the U.S. I left my coven. I graduated from high school, and I went to college, and I was looking for, like, you know, I grew up in a small town that had a coven that was pretty big, and I thought, how am I going to find a bigger coven or another coven? And my first day at college was a Wednesday, and the student union was open, and they had all the political and social groups that want to recruit somebody else was there. So there's like a Baptist student union, and then there's like the Republican and the Democrat student union, and right there in the open was a satanic group. You know, and I thought, wow, you know, it's right here. It's easy to find. So I went to one of their meetings, and it was a group of kids away from home for the first time, and thought that Satanism was all about getting drunk, getting high, and getting laid. You know, and I thought, well, okay, those can be tools of the devil, but that's not what I wanted. You know, and I had heard that there was a satanic group that was out to rule the world. And I just thought that was the most amazing thing. If that really existed, that's what I wanted to be part of. So I contacted my original cult, and they put me in contact with Satan's World Church. And I was like, this is the name, you know, Satan's World Church. Okay. So I go out and I find these guys. They give me an address and a phone number and all of that. So I go to one of their meetings, and even at the local level, their meetings are gigantic.
Really?
And I get involved with them, and I find out that I had seen, when I was about 13 or 14 years old, I saw this guy dressed like in a tuxedo, but maybe from the 1800s. And he had a walking cane, and his face was painted up. And I was just like, he looked like, I don't know, like somebody out of a comic book or something. But, you know, I collected comic books as a kid, and he looked cool to me. You know, and he walked into an office, and I was just staring at him because I'd never seen anybody dressed like that. And he gave me a little wink, and he went into the room. So when I joined this coven, it wasn't the exact same person, but they had somebody there that looked like that. And the position was High Wizard. You know, and I was like, oh, what a cool position. How do you get that? Well, the rumor is that Satan decides who the High Wizard is. The coven that I was in originally was led by high priests and priestesses. This coven, they don't recognize the high priest or priestess as having any power, because let's say that as a nerdy kid, I would have started my own coven, but no one will listen to me. No one will follow my orders. No one wants to do my type of magic. So I could be in a coven of one. And if I'm in a coven of one, that makes me the high priest.
Gotcha.
So you're claiming that you're a high priest, but you're not over anybody. You don't really have any power in that respect. So if you join this bigger coven, they recognize that, okay, you might have been a high priest for 25 years, or you might have been a high priest for a month. You might have really been over 2,500 people, or maybe you're just over yourself. Since they can't verify any of that, you don't have any power when you're there. The person in power there's a CEO, and there's a board of directors, and then there's between 1 and 10 high wizards in the world. You know, you're handpicked by Satan, apparently. The CEO will send word that you're supposed to come before the board of directors, and they present to you what the high wizard is. I joined them when I was about 18. I became the high wizard when I was 21, which is pretty crazy because most people are in like their 40s or 50s when they're picked. So I guess I was like the youngest high wizard for a while anyway. And when you get there, they give you like a handbook, so there's like a rule book to what you do. And you basically, no one can tell you what to do, which in a sense makes you feel powerful, but you ultimately will have to practice magic. You have to do what you're told ultimately. So it's kind of like an illusion of power. No one follows you. You're not over anybody, but everybody's scared of you. And so in the rules, though, your first year as a high wizard, within the first year of you being a high wizard, you have to go to Bohemian Grove.
Okay.
Everybody that's a high wizard has to go at least their first year. And then after that, you may be requested. Like, there's a high wizard there every year, but it could be because either it's your first year or you're requested to go back because you did a good job for somebody.
What do you mean by good job? Like, what, as a high wizard, what would you do at Bohemian Grove?
Other than the cremation of care, there's other magic events that happen there. There's open magic spell work that happens at the Owl, and then there's also private spell work that happens behind closed doors. So you're asked sometimes to mediate two people that don't get along but need to get along because they have to move some agenda forward.
Okay.
So you're called in sort of like as a judge or a mediator between those two things. So you get those two people to play nice with each other. Or, you're trying to get some mega road built through some place that would be worth billions of dollars to somebody, quite possibly yourself. And the person you're trying to work with, or the people you've been trying to work with, aren't cooperating. So you want to call in the high wizard to do a spell for you so that either it's somehow smoothed over or maybe the person that's standing in your way disappears in some way.
Unreal.
But you don't want to get your hands dirty. You don't want to actually go out and drop them off a boat into shark-infested waters. But you'd like for some accident to happen to that person.
Do people
you
who...
call the high wizard. I do a magic spell for you.
That's just crazy. Do people who attend Bohemian Grove, do they know what it is? I mean, there's this illusion, that some president or something goes, and he doesn't really know what it is. It's just a camping event with a bunch of rich people. But do they really know that this is spiritual and it's satanic?
There's a video on YouTube of President Nixon. It's a recording, audio between him and somebody on a phone call, and he mentioned that he wouldn't be going back because there were too many bleeping. He used a derogatory term for homosexuals.
Gotcha.
I mean, he at least understood that part. That there's open homosexuality there. They hire gay strippers, gay porn stars, and sometimes just gay hustlers off the street to come in and entertain.
All right, Zach, hold on one second, sir. We're up against another break. Man, this is getting weird. We'll be back right after this. All right, we're talking to former high wizard Zachary King about practices at Bohemian Grove at the moment. Great story and bio. Go to the first hour and grab his testimony up to that point. Zachary, the people at Bohemian Grove, can you name names? Can you say, there are, this many senators? Like, what can you tell us about who attends?
Pretty much anybody that's got money is gonna gravitate there. Rich, powerful. The first year I was there was 1988.
Okay.
And my favorite president of all time was Ronald Reagan. And I did not expect to see him at Bohemian Grove, and I did. But he was the most uncomfortable guest I'd ever seen. He looked like he just wanted to leave. Like, I saw him briefly he was having lunch, and I walked past where he was standing, and I looked at him, and he looked at me the High Wizard, as I said, is a very distinct look, and he looked at me like, what the hell was I? And he was looking around, kind of like, where the hell am I? And I get the idea that he didn't entirely like being there, and that actually made me feel better because I wouldn't want Ronald Reagan to be there at all, you know, and that he was there and he didn't seem to like it. I was like, oh, this is good. This is a good sign. But I've seen the Bushes there. I had not seen. I don't know that I would have known Jeb Bush at that point. So I don't know if I saw Jeb or not. I know I saw George and W. I've seen Bill Clinton. I've seen. I saw it's a men's only event. Hillary showed up at one of the events. She walked on property to tell Bill something, and she got escorted off the property by security.
Wow.
Wow. Let's see, and I've seen. I saw the current president back in the 90s before. I think it was before he was even in office. It seemed. I mean, it was probably around 95 or 96, something like that.
Yeah,
might have been earlier.
There's some weird history. There's some weird history with Barack Obama. There's reports that Henry Kissinger was talking to Barack Obama as early as when Barack was still in college, and that just kind of sets off this rabbit trail of, you know, how long has this been planned and all that sort of stuff. But we have a bunch of questions that have come in for you, and I kind of want to get to some of those, especially with only 2.5 segments left. And you know, you mentioned the fact that early in your involvement in this, there was a practice of getting a woman pregnant and then aborting the baby. And people are like, well, you know, that's not true. But that's exactly where we get Easter from. And that's what the Easter celebration is. That's why Easter eggs are dyed red. I mean, that practice has been going on. It's been going on a long time. But one of the questions that keeps coming up is Burning Man. So you have Bohemian Grove for the rich people. Is Burning Man a satanic event in your perspective?
Burning Man, to me, it represents a couple of things. Both of them would be semi-nefarious, but I think that a lot of the people that go don't see it that way. I think they see it as a very fun event. In Druid history, there would be people that would be gathered during the year. The Druid works as a judge, so he travels the country hearing cases and deciding what the punishment is that these people would get. A lot of the people would get the death penalty. At the end of their season of traveling around, all these people they're all gathered together as he goes from place to place, and they're put inside of a giant wooden figure that they burn. So they literally catch this thing on fire and kill everybody that was guilty, and they offer this up to whatever god they're offering it to. But they kill all the guilty people, which is basically a large Burning Man. You know, if you've ever been to Burning Man, there's a lot of sexual promiscuity that happens, and just a lot of overall debauchery. There's a lot of drug use. There's a lot of sex, but I mean, it's possible that you could go and not be involved in that. You know, it's just like not everybody that went to Woodstock was, you know, on LSD or Truman or high, and although I would imagine a large portion were, you know, it's possible to go to an event and not be involved in everything bad that's happening there.
Sure.
You know, whether it is a true satanic event, I don't know. But it seems that, you know, those events are like what you make it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's kind of like, you know, your 90-year-old neighbor who's a Mason. You know, he's not part of the grand secret. He's just joining a bunch of other old friends down at the local lodge there. So yeah, that makes sense. In terms of human sacrifices, have you witnessed any real human sacrifices? Because I heard that they actually still do this. They go to graveyards where they know there's going to be a funeral. They sacrifice an infant or a baby. Then they dig underneath where the casket of a regular funeral is going to be held. That way nobody will ever find the body of this child. Are there still human sacrifices going on in America?
Yes, there still are. I mean, it doesn't have to be. I mean, there are There are. It's not just Satanists. I mean, well, basically, in my mind, when I was learning magic, I learned all types of magic. Anything that I could learn, that's what I wanted. Because as a high wizard, you practice whatever will work for you. So if a Santeria spell will work best in a particular case, then you want to use that. If a voodoo spell works, great, use that. If a Wiccan spell will work, I doubt that will really work for you, but, if you want to use a Wiccan spell, then go ahead and do that. So there's all the different types of modalities of magic that there are. To a pure Satanist or to a high wizard, there's only one type of magic. There's satanic magic. So just practice whatever kind you want and do whatever you're going to do.
Do as thou wilt.
So doing like a baby buried under a coffin, that may be a particular type of Satanist that does that. That wasn't the cult that I was in. They wouldn't have done that. They wouldn't have killed a baby that was outside the womb. But they've killed plenty that were inside the womb.
Yeah.
And there's other cults and there's other branches of magic that will overtly kill people. I mean, voodoo and Santeria both kills people that are living, adults that are living.
Unreal.
Bodies are found around the world, pretty much, that have been victims of some kind of satanic ritual.
You're absolutely right. And I remember maybe a year and a half ago, there was a string of murders where they weren't allowing the media to show up because next to the body or next to the body parts, there were typically drawings etched in the dirt around them. And it was some sort of occultic symbology, but they didn't want the media reporting on that. Do you think this is a lot more widespread than we realize? Yes or no, and then we got to take a break.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Folks, stay where you're at. 2 more segments left. I'm telling you, a lot to cover with this great guest. We'll be back right after the break. Zachary, there is so much stuff to cover. I'm gonna try not to cut you off too much, but I know I only have 2 segments left. I'm gonna give your website again, allsaintsministry.org, allsaintsministry.org. So, lots of questions. The first question was about Easter. Josh, is that really where Easter came from? I thought it was about the blood of Christ on the egg. No, it's actually a ritualistic sacrifice. That's what it is. But anyway, that's a whole show in and of itself. A common question that's been coming up, Zachary, is celebrities selling their souls. We always hear that. Is that really happening? In order to become a pop star or a movie star, is there a lot of soul selling going on?
Yeah, unfortunately there is, but selling your soul is impossible to do. You can't actually do it, but Satan will lie to you, and that's more of an Illuminati conversation, and that would be like another show. But that's more of an Illuminati thing and not a Bohemian Grove thing.
Well, now you just got yourself invited back in, so we're going to have you back on to talk about that. Saturn. A lot of people are talking about Saturn. Saturn has become kind of like this idol for a lot of people. What's the deal with Saturn? Is there any connection here?
I have no idea.
All right.
That one's new to me.
All right, so we'll take that off. You mentioned the Wiccan spells. You kind of chuckled and said, yeah, those probably won't work for you. What's the difference between Wicca and what you're talking about?
Wiccans believe that they practice light or bright or white magic, that they're only interested in preserving life and creating life, and believe that there is no God or Satan, that they worship Gaia, which is Mother Earth, and that there is no God, there is no Satan. These are just man-made terms by, the church to keep people in line. Now, Satanists understand that all magical power comes from Satan. So whether you're going to produce life or destroy it, you need to worship the source where the magic comes from, where the magical power comes from. Worship that, and then just do whatever kind of magic you're going to do. So that the two of them kind of clash. The funny thing about this light and life and all that the Wiccans claim that they believe in is that if they feel you are against them in any way, if you're attacking them in some way, they have the right to smite you or smote you, which means they have the right to destroy you by any means necessary. and that's generally through magic. They will then practice dark magic against you. Now, who might be a person that they would think is attacking them? All Christians. Because Christians pray for their conversion, they see that as an attack, and they will unleash hell on us, so to speak.
Wow.
Now,
Okay.
as well, as much as they claim that they're in favor of life, and this is all the good stuff that they do, at a Planned Parenthood about 2 weeks ago, they showed up and said that abortion is a woman's sacrament. So they're putting it on the same level as something holy.
Wow. Okay. That made me mad. Whew. Okay. So another question that keeps coming in: the James Randi $1 Million Challenge. If magic is real, why has nobody from this branch of Satanism ever claimed the $1 Million prize?
Because most people from this brand of magic are secretive, and they're out to rule the world, and you can't rule the world truly if somebody knows who you are and that you really exist. Remember, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was proving he wasn't real.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. September 23rd, it seems to be a popular date for doomsdayers right now, thinking the world's going to end. Is there any connection to that in any form of Satanism? Is that a date of importance?
Around that same date is when they start kidnapping people for Halloween, but if the world ends on that date, then there won't be any sacrifices on Halloween.
What do you mean they start kidnapping people for Halloween?
Halloween's a big satanic sacrifice day.
I thought it was an urban legend. There's a town near where I am that actually banned trick-or-treating. And it happens to be near the world's, or at least America's, largest witch coven. And the reason was that in the 70s and 80s, there were a rash of kidnappings in September and October. So you're telling me there might be some legitimacy to this?
Yes, unfortunately, yes. Sad but true.
Wow. That's scary. So, what about the media? I mean, granted, the Illuminati thing was selling your soul, but there are things like Harry Potter and, whatever that vampire who sparkles that everybody was all excited about. Is it weird to you that Twilight? Thank you. Is it weird that we have now created bad guys into the good guys? We've always had a fascination with the underdog in many, many aspects. And, Satan, as I said before, Satan removed himself from the picture. He's not really real. So, now things that the Bible tells you that what was good is now bad and what was bad is now good. So we had this prediction from 3,000 years ago that these things were going to be. Now we're there. Surprise. That now we're in the point that the Bible said that, this was coming. Now it's arrived. If you remember, even back when Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger, the first movie was scary as hell, and Freddy was definitely the bad guy. But look at it now, 5 movies in, there's Freddy Krueger dolls and memorabilia, and Freddy Krueger was cool. They turned Freddy Krueger into like an icon. Same thing with Jason. The Friday the 13th movies. He was the bad guy. Now he's cool. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy how we're embracing this stuff so much. So when you look back at where you came from, what created, and I really want to get to this because this is the most important part, what created the change in you? When did you say, hey, wait a second, something's actually wrong here?
Well, when I was about 33 years old, around that time, I had sinned all I could stand. I had done I had assisted in 146 abortions. I had broken up or split a bunch of churches, and I was kind of just tired of what I was seeing. It wasn't fun anymore. When I first started sinning, it was fun. And I compare it to working in a candy store. When you first get there, it's fun and exciting and bright colors and just, candies that you love, your favorite candies, and candies you've never tried before, and you just want to try everything. And after 30 days, you're like, oh, my God, when is this going to end? You know, and if you've been there for a few years, it's like there's nothing new under the sun, and you're tired of working there. Now it's just a paycheck. Well, that's how this was for me. After, you know, at that point, probably about 20 years in, I was like, oh, this has got to end. You know, I'm tired of doing this. But you can't walk away from something like that without dying. Walking away is really bad for your health. So I had been working on breaking up or splitting a Baptist church, and I was having a hard time doing it. And I just thought, okay, I'm just going to tell them that I'm converting and just join their church. And I did that, and I kind of tried to disappear in that. But all that time, I'm plotting my leaving, you know, me escaping. And my satanic coven kind of left me alone. I think they were just thinking, well, you know, he's really pulling a number on him now. You know, it's like, we'll see what he does.
Like
and
you
what
were
I ended
deep
up doing
undercover.
was leaving town in the middle of the night and selling my car and hitchhiking my way across the United States and escaping into Canada for a little bit. Then when I came back to the United States, I worked like as a dishwasher, different things like that. Anything where I could work and I didn't have to sign a W-2 or get paid in a check, you know, and just live off the grid for about 3 years. And then when I did resurface, I was in Vermont, which is a great place to hide. Anybody out there looking for a place to hide, go to Vermont. They can't, any job you have, no other state can verify that you have a job there. They're not allowed to give out personal information.
Whoa.
Unfortunately, you can't get it's hard to get a credit card if you leave the state because no place can verify that you worked there or what your salary was.
Wow.
You could claim on anything that you were the president of the company and you worked there 20 years because no one can verify that.
That's crazy. Zachary, stay where you're at. One last break, my friend. Then we'll get to the end of the show. It goes by so fast. We'll be back right after this. All right, Zachary. Now, the obvious question is, you went into a Baptist church in an effort to break it up. How many churches have you broken up, and how do you go about breaking up a church?
Well, there's three ways to split a church. One is a sex scandal of some kind, usually involving a 15 or 16-year-old girl. One is a monetary scandal, and one is using something as simple and easy as gossip. That was my group's specialty. Was you don't really look to break them up. You don't want to destroy the church. You just want to cause a split. And really, you're trying to cause the split in the committee, not in the church. But there's overwhelming evidence that if you can split a committee, you can split the church.
Mm-hmm. And what's interesting about that is if people do read the Bible, the punishment for gossip is extremely severe. You are kicked out of the camp. You are shunned because gossip is extremely dangerous. So, okay. So
Right.
you're in this Baptist church. Your Satanist cohorts think you're just going deep undercover. When did you make the switch? When did the light come on for you?
When I left that church and I went to Canada and then I eventually came down and moved into, like Vermont. And like I said, I lived off the grid for about 3 years during all that. And then when I resurfaced, I was in Vermont, and that was around 2002, 2003. And I was there. I was working as a manager at a jewelry store in 2008, in January of 2008. And I was married. Me and my wife, we both practiced magic and New Age stuff. Whatever she could get her hands on, she was trying. And I'd been married for about 3 months. And in January, one day I was at work, and this woman came up, and she said she wanted to buy some earrings, and I basically gave her the perfect pair. And then she was like, well, I'm going to wait. I'm shopping with my daughter. When I'm done, I'll come back and I'll make the purchase. And she came back about 3 hours later. We did the transaction, and I handed her the stuff and I handed her the receipt. And I was like, hey, we're having a special now, blah, 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 call this number or whatever. And she was like, oh, I've got something for you too. And I was like, oh no. I know she's going to pull out like some kind of Bible tract and give that to me. And I'll swear that I'm going to read it and I'm just going to throw it in the trash because I know I sold my soul when I was 13. I don't have the option to turn to Jesus. And these things just kind of like upset me now. And, she instead pulls out a little metal disc, and I'm thinking, gold disc. I don't know what that is. I don't know what she's trying to do here. And she says the weirdest thing to me, and remember, I was a Satanist for 26 years, so if you're going to say something weird to me, it's out there. She said, the Blessed Mother is calling you into her army. And I'm thinking, Blessed Mother. I said, I have no idea who this is. And, I grew up Baptist. Mary gave birth to Jesus. That's all you got. So, and she says it's very powerful. Well, now I know that it's got to be a cult because Christians don't bless anything. And then she says it again a little later. She says it's very powerful. And then I'm insulted because as practicing magic, I could pick something up and tell you if it was powerful. Was this used in a protection spell? Was this used in a death spell? Was it found at Goodwill and your friend made up a story about what it was used for? I could tell you that. So I reached my hand out and I took it because I knew this was going to be a worthless piece of crap and it was going to have no power and it could do nothing to me. And I like to tell people that I think the Holy Spirit used my ego and my arrogance to trick me. So she dropped in my hand, I closed my fist, and suddenly my mall and my kiosk are gone. And it's me and this woman that had been talking to me is still talking to me, and she starts telling me about all the abortions I've done in my life, and the churches I've split, and all the evil I've been doing, and I'm working for the devil. I need to stop that. And I'm terrified. I have no idea who this woman is, how she knows all this stuff. I've tried to hide my past, and here it is. She's revealing everything about me right there to my face. I'm sure my jaw is on the floor. And then she says again, the Blessed Mother's calling you into her army. And in that instance, I knew that the Blessed Mother was the Mother of God, which is a weird thing to realize when you used to be Baptist, because you would never say Mother of God. And Mary appeared to me, and she took me by the hand, and she turned me around, and Jesus was standing behind me. And in that moment, I knew that everything that I had been taught and everything that I had done was wrong, and that Jesus was God, and that he was forgiving me. And I accepted him into my heart, and I opened my hand up, and I was back in my store. And this woman's still talking to me. She gave me the address of where she went to church, and the rest is history. Here we are.
Wow. Okay, so you have this conversion experience. You go home to your wife. How does that conversation go?
Oh, man, I was vile. I walked in the door and I was like, hey, honey, guess what? I'm Catholic now. And she's like, of all the things you could be, why would you do that? The initial day didn't go very well for me, but she eventually, we started going to the church like 2 days later, and we went to daily mass, and we came into the church at the same time. We both entered the church in May of 2008, like official members, officially Catholic.
Wow. So you've been Catholic now for a while. Have you had any residual pushback from the satanic either individuals that you have been associated with or the satanic forces that used to be your, I don't know, the entities that you would interact with? Has there been any satanic resistance to your conversion?
Quite a bit. It's a regular thing. If you Google search me, there's other interviews and articles that have come up, and there's always pushback or blowback from the other side. Quite a bit of attack. They actually recently, a large article came out about me that went viral probably about 3 weeks ago, and Satanists published my address on the internet, and I had death threats.
Wow. So why?
Anybody interested in? Yes.
No, go ahead. Finish what you were going to say.
I say anybody interested in that article, it's lepantoinstitute.com, and it's about the abortion scandal that's going on.
What do you say to the people who say, "Okay, I'm tracking with you. You were in a satanic cult. You leave and you go to Catholicism." For those who are outside Catholicism or who have left, they see a lot of that same symbology, a lot of that same sort of activity happening. Is it possible, or have you entertained the idea that you left one form of the same thing and just went to the other side of the coin?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, when we have, like Catholicism, for example, is not really the biblical expression of that religion. I mean, there's, for example, the symbology, the fact that Jupiter is the statue that they now call Peter. You have the obelisk, which is a satanic symbol going back way back to Babylon and ancient Egypt as a phallic symbol. Is there any concern that you have with the fact that a lot of Catholicism is based on sun god worship, where a lot of the satanic rituals came from in the first place?
No, and here's a weird thing. In line, I think, with what you're discussing. If you look at all the satanic activity that's happening now, like the Baphomet statue that has gone from the courthouse in Oklahoma to Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the Satanists are coming out saying that they're going to have more satanic churches erected all around, and that they tried to have a black mass at Yale, and that was shut down. But then they did have one in Oklahoma City, and it was made public. Anybody could come to it. Well, as black mass, they want to get a consecrated host. Now, for those of you that aren't Catholic, the Catholics believe, and I believe, that the consecrated host is the body and blood, soul and divinity of our Lord Jesus Christ. Now, we can argue that all day, but that's another show. The Satanists can tell a consecrated host from an unconsecrated host. Now, I know it seems like, why don't we just go to the store, buy a box of like 100 of these hosts, because they sell from anywhere from $1,500 to $15,000. So let's say we buy a box of 100 of them, put them in a gold container, take them to a satanic group and say, hey, as a bargain to you, we're going to sell you these for $1,000 each.
Yeah.
It'll be $100,000. You'll save so much money, and I'll make a good deal of money.
Well, Zachary,
why don't we do that?
I am out of show, my friend. I literally am out of show. I have to have you back on again. I am going to send you a couple DVDs. I want you to review them before we have another conversation, because we're going to talk about some of the Catholic issues that you brought up near the end. I would really love to dig into those. So I'll send you some DVDs. We'll review those. We'll talk about Illuminati in media next time as well. And I appreciate your time, sir. All right, folks, that does it for today. We are out of here. It went by fast. Remember, no victim, no crime. Look into jury nullification. Today, tomorrow, and as always, may your path lead to heaven, and may freedom follow in your footsteps.